after a feast, you had finished your negotiations with the dwarves, and you would finally be able to return home with your mission completed. Your way home led you to a circle of teleportation that would carry your party, your escort, and of course your metal, safety within reach of home. But just before the circle activated, Evelyn once again witnessed time come to a standstill as the unknown wizard appeared once more. He gave you a short word of advice and changed the incantation of the circle just before time resumed. You teleported through the heat of the elemental plane of fire and arrived safely, perhaps surprisingly, in the mountains close to Polythreme. Just before we ended, you had been on your approach to the city. Still 2 days of travel away, in the plains surrounding you, the city, like a mountain, rises far above the horizon. However, at the moment, you would not even be able to catch a glimpse of it. Right now, you are within Red's magnificent mansion, safe haven conjured by your bard, where you're taking a long rest before the road ahead. And that's where we stand.
First of all, I have to check out this horse. If it like moves when I'm standing on top of it.
Unless Red rigged some sort of machinery to it, it's a regular rocking horse.
So yeah, you definitely get to work on your balance.
On its sort of half circle legs, you begin rocking back and forth.
Okay. Doing some balance training then, I guess. Because we already had a long rest, and since the last long rest we didn't like do too much yet, right? So it's got enough energy to spend.
Evelyn will take time slowly, like, eyeing and examining every inch of this mansion that Rhett created.
Do you have detect magic of while you do?
Everything's gonna be magic!
No, that's why I was asking.
No.
You go blind.
Yeah, no. She's just exploring everything, like taking stock, taking mental like inventory, silently judging or approving of every little thing. And yeah, if Rhett's with her, she'd probably be making notes of like, no, the tools need to be this size. You're missing this tool, like random crap like that. As she kind of slowly inspects everything.
Okay.
But she'd probably like do a thorough, because while she's not going to like do it other than probably a slight smile every now and then, like she's very impressed with it. She won't say that, but this is like a grandiose feat of magic, so she's curious and investigating things, but she's not gonna actually tell him good job. But Rhett would probably pick up that because he's been around her long enough.
Yeah.
To be like, she doesn't hate it. That's high praise in of itself. She'd slowly do that over like 30 minutes or so just kind of inspect everything before making her way back. She'd probably eventually end up over by the workshop specifically. With Kieran. Where I put Kieran?
Huxley do anything specific?
No. Oh, making more drawings of dragons.
You see Bakala sort of wander around for a moment, curiously eyeing everything, and then settling, of course, as expected, by the bar, making use of the mugs that are almost endlessly being refilled by the invisible attendants of the Magnificent Mansion. Was there anything anyone wanted to do before you guys settle in for the long rest?
Oh, I mean, at some point I will settle down a little bit of one of the many pillows, probably around here.
Okay.
And will draw a couple sketches into my notebook. Probably the most prominent one, a very grumpy looking Bacalar. And as she's sitting at the bar like a sulking little kid. A little bit comical, almost. And yeah, I guess that then at some point... Oh yeah, what the invisible helpers can like make us food and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, he would just try out and figure out.
Is that what you do,
can
Red?
do.
Or do you move any closer?
He can't see, so
Roll right.
Uh,
You're at the. You're like on the. She sat down at the other end of the bar. Do you just sort of mention it across the bar, or do you sit a little closer before?
or I can. I don't know if you have enough signal to that you would want any of us to stream it, but we're currently just in your mansion.
Okay. So after some time, you settle down near her and drink alongside, and casually mention the gem, to which she replies, "Ah, you were wanting Meda's crown jewel." You see her sort of rummage into the large backpack on her back and pull out a fist-sized gem that shimmers a brilliant white. Here. She puts it on the table.
Now I imagine him actually saying that to her.
Almost forgot about
Da-da-da-da-da.
It's funny because I don't even need you to be like saying what we're saying because I can already picture it. Like him going on at length of like, oh
You,
yes, this is
you sweep the gem off the table in your hand. And while eloquently expressing how well you're going to take care of this gem, Bakala does not seem at all interested. Her face is already turned back towards her mug and she continues drinking.
Evelyn's probably going to be spending an inordinate amount of time kind of carefully inspecting Kieran, taking him slightly apart, putting him back together, making sure his joints are all working, that nothing's out of place. nothing's missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every sort of small test you do with Kieran
Mhm.
seems to work just fine. The heat, even though you felt it, doesn't seem to have affected Kieran at all. There's no warped metal, even the sort of finer joints are unaffected. Throughout the evening, as you'd be, drinking and talking together, you'd notice that Bakala doesn't really talk much, at least today. She does seem to listen in now whenever anyone has a conversation. Especially when the subject moves to something pertaining to Polythreme or the local area.
At least for this evening. Regardless if unless somebody specifically approaches her, Emma's gonna probably be very much on her own corner, kind of inspecting Kieran like I just repeatedly over and over again. You just double checking to make sure, and mostly in an almost mindless manner, but she's mostly keeping her to herself this evening, at least.
Okay. Eventually, night settles and you take your long rest in your respective rooms, with Wakala sleeping in the side room as it is prepared with a bed. And you all awaken in the morning, well rested. Perhaps better than even staying in the city.
Right, well, I suppose we'll be heading back out in a bit. Rachel will be doing the same sort of thing again to help us get along. Wonderful. I'm assuming he's gonna have to cast it inside the mansion.
To
so that
get
Vint
Vint
can
out?
Get
Yes.
out again.
You can
true.
shunt him out. Yeah, that's true.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that would work. Yes, I imagine they'll
Do you
have
do
like
that?
a breakfast. Yeah.
Okay.
And then pop out.
You have a short breakfast, and as you head out, as the last of you, Red, leaves the door and closes it with Vint still inside, there's this gust of wind as the door closes, a sort of almost like an impact this on the side of the road as just dust begins to swirl, as Vint gets shunted back into real space.
Or Vince. Yeah, and I think then Rhett casts his spell and we're back to Cloud.
Red casts
Travel.
Windwalk, and again,
Dang.
you make incredible
Unless,
speed.
unless if you want what? I was assuming. Maybe I shouldn't have. Travel by foot for a bit?
Either way, I'm assuming that you use it during the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. During your second day of travel, the distant haze that seems to envelop the mountain of iron in front of you begins to slowly fade until only a thin veil remains. The blurred dark shapes of the city begin to grow more distinct. The smooth surface of the gargantuan wall, the myriad towers reaching above it, and the many billowing smokestacks that waft from nearly every space open to the sky and air. As you travel throughout the day, your path on the road is relatively uneventful. But, strangely, the traffic along the road to the city, considering the direction of the road, is oddly busy. More so, the people riding past you on horses do not look like traders or simple civilians. Mostly clad in leathers and visibly armed, they gallop along the road, some paying you no particular mind aside from avoiding collision with you and Vint specifically.
Did these look like soldiers?
They don't really have any sort of unifying livery. They remind you more of mercenaries than you would expect soldiers to look.
Leaving Polythreme.
To and fro.
Oh, back and forth?
And they don't
Some
really care
you
about the
encounter-
huge necrotech.
Some do look up, but none of them stop to engage you about it.
Interesting. Okay.
There isn't a lot of them. As you travel throughout this entire day, including when you windwalk, there are only about 4 or 5 of these encounters. Someone riding from the city along the road, someone riding towards the city along the road. They don't seem to have any particular direction, other than they seem somewhat similar to each other.
Do they look like any of them are sporting any injuries at all? Or are these people that are like, oh, they're if they've had combat, it's not been recent?
What is your passive investigation?
Passive
Why do I even ask?
investigation.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I just realized who I was asking.
My passive investigation is 19.
Even as they pass by relatively quickly, you do pick up most of the details. What would stand out? One, particularly, that they are armed, some with guns, which aren't cheapest to come by. Wounds, however, injuries, you see none.
Is this where Ellen would normally let Rhett do his thing and go and try and talk friendly with one of these people? But I feel like that's mean to do today. So,
I mean, you could try, but I should mention they do gallop past you relatively far. So even as you would shout out, by the time you'd spoken, you there, they're already, somewhat
Rude.
down the road. There's probably, as you try to speak to them, a short glance back, but as there is no immediate emergency or anything they see, they just keep on riding.
probably try and head a little faster then
Okay.
back.
It's probably
to-
after you see one or two of them that you start your wind wall
Yeah.
and begin to float as gaseous clouds quickly towards the city. As your second day of travel comes to an end as night falls, do you return to the magnificent mansion? Okay. As the night before, you see the door materialize. And you step inside. Or, in the case of Wind, float inside as a cloud. Is there anything anyone wanted to do during this long rest?
Probably for the first time, Soleil will drop his blue tiger outfit when Bacala is around. Doesn't seem to care if she knows how he looks.
As you drop the facade, you remove the mask, the cowl, there is a long moment of her staring at you with a sort of almost questioning gaze as you see her eyes sort of wander from your tail up to the ears and your face.
Kinda rudely staring.
Do you stare back?
Of course I will.
There's these solid, 20 seconds where you just stare at each other. And then Bacala just shrugs. And begins to walk back towards the bar.
Soleil will just shrug. And will take good care of his little insect friend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe do a little training here and there.
Okay. Can you give me an animal handling?
Sure. Oh, I actually have good animal handling now. Let me check. The level up gave me good animal handling. Oh. Ha! That is dirty 20.
As you train with Suxley, you notice that as you sort of assume the same position as you first did, sort of, with the spitting and the acid, that Suxley does seem a lot heavier than they used to. It's also quite a bit larger than they used to. And
You're a good boy. Here, have some dinner. And holds up his arm so Suxley can do what Suxley does.
Oh.
Oh. Let me see what changed. Yeah, plus 2 more to hit and 1d6 more damage.
Nice.
Oh, and another ability. Target has to make a DC 15 con save or be infected with a parasite and become poisoned. That's neat. While poisoned this way, can't regain hit points, and affected creatures can repeat the saving throw at the end of their turns. Okay, ending this effect. Can poison people!
Beggar, if you get poisoned enough, can you gain a mutation to be resistant to poison? I feel like you, of all people, would know this.
We'll talk about it. Get poisoned.
So you want to get poisoned by this thing every time you take a rest to get
No.
an immunity? I mean, I would be down.
I'm just throwing theoretical things out there.
Mhm.
Normal people go to bed after a long day of traveling, and we just get poisoned by our own pets.
Evelyn's gonna take some time to kind of look over a map. Kind of studying based on where they were coming, where the mercenaries were traveling, trying to get an idea of what direction they were heading in, what's in the direction they were heading in, where could they potentially be coming from or going to.
Mm-hmm. At the moment, it's a little bit smaller, but you are coming from this spot in the Ark Mountains.
So
Between here and the city, there really isn't much other than the plains around Polythreme. There also isn't really anywhere at the mountains that would seem like it would make sense for them to go back and forth. You know that the observatory is somewhere in the mountains. You know that the secret forge of the Polythreme guards is in the mountains. But those are not exactly along the road you're walking. They're further south, closer to the city, and of course they're secret.
would this be a rough pathing to Entagark? At all?
Not unless they would climb the mountains to somehow get over them. But there are a myriad better ways
Mm-hmm.
and better passageway that you would take. Yeah. It would almost seem harder to cross here than to try and get through the tunnel or a smaller,
Right.
much lower pass through the mountains. Maybe at 10.
Is there anything that I'm aware of in the mountains, like a resource or like I know isn't the what's it called? Dragonheart Brewery up in these mountains?
The Dragonheart Brewery would be much further south.
Much further south, okay.
Somewhat close-ish to where you could maybe find a pass to Antark,
Mm-hmm.
and also much closer to the city.
But it's, at a quick recall, there's nothing that I can imagine easily why they would be traveling back and forth.
Give me, I guess, intelligence straight up.
Sure. Um, 21?
Considering your knowledge of the area, which is decent, there's no real reason for them to go either to the mountain or Polythreme back and forth. It might be that they're looking for something nearby. Maybe searching for something? They didn't seem to be carrying anything back and forth.
Okay.
Could be.
Possibly. We knew that there was like 5 floating around, technically.
Okay. You take your long rest. 1, 2.
Baklava. Oh boy.
She, at the moment doesn't seem to take the opportunity to really talk, Bill. Unless you were
I'm
pushing
assuming
her
that's a phone
somewhat?
autocorrect.
Probably. I was like, baklava. Mmm, yummy.
Mm-hmm. But you know, we can nickname her Baklava. I dig it.
I guess it's fine. Getting hungry every time I mention her.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
She seems generally silent on her own. She would answer if you ask any specific questions, but she doesn't seem really open about talking, about socializing at least, as you would be drinking and eating. Or traveling on the road. Why you have to be mad?
Evelyn would try and convince Rhett to play some music. Oh, okay, yeah. If it goes too quiet for too long, to help her think. But that can be well after he attempts to talk to Baklava.
Whenever you ask Bakal vague or more general question like what's on your mind, she seems to answer with similarly general answers. Nothing much, just taking everything in.
Soleil will also ask her at some point. Something like, so, are you also a capable warrior, like your father?
Now there's a loaded question. There is few capable warriors such as my father. But I can handle myself.
Good. I mean, my old training partner just stayed back in Polythreme, so... Would you mind sparring a bit before going to bed today? I feel like my muscles need a little bit of excitement today.
I think you'll find our ideas of training maybe a little bit different.
Well, I mean, I'm always open to learn more about different training styles.
The smile that spreads across her face. There's really no other way to describe it other than it seems mean.
At least there's some emotion there, I like it.
And you spend some time sparring with Bakala.
Okay.
Let's see. Give me a dex check, as that's your primary fighting.
Okay, just a check.
Yeah.
That's okay. 17.
Okay. Her idea of training is not too different from real combat,
Mm-hmm.
as you and her just sort of start smacking the crap out of each other.
I like it. To be honest, I really dig it.
Every time she hits you, even though it is sort of with the blunt, flat side of her axe, there's this immense pain. There is a lot of strength behind those axe throws. There is a lot of strength behind every time she tries to barrel sideways into you. And as she is clad in full plate, halfway through the training, you know you'll wake up with at least a couple of bruises.
Alright, at some point I will try to, like, every time she hits me or I hit her, every time afterwards I will go just fist bump and be like, yeah, it was a good one. And then continue with the next thing. I don't know if she would return like something like a fist bump, but I'm trying to build up a little bit of, like, companionship here.
At first, she wouldn't. But as you see every time that you sort of, stumble backwards, every time she gets a little bit over on you, raw strength over dexterity, there's this sort of smile on her face. And after a good 20 minutes or so of sparring, she does reciprocate the gesture.
And basically every time after the fist bump we go back into starting position and go at each other again. Okay. Sometimes you just need to beat the crap out of each other to understand each other.
There is a definite loud clanking happening in one corner of the mansion, even as Red is playing music, as some others might be trying to focus on something else.
Mortal Kombat theme.
There's like definitely moments of Evelyn just like sitting there rubbing her temples like I'm gonna murder them all. It's fine. They're idiots. They're so stupid. Like this is what idiots do. They smash into each other. Like that's her internal monologue.
Makes another note, soundproofing.
Pretty much like it's just a scribbled like angry like quiet place like needed and then shoved over in Rhett's general direction, but also at the same time not wanting to interrupt his music.
Okay.
Afterwards, Saleh would like kind of beaten up, go to Hux and ask them to like, could you feed Suxley today? I feel a little bit tired, to be honest.
No problem.
All right, thanks.
Do
Oh,
you
it's a
like
good
my
one.
drawings?
What?
Do you like my drawings? I show you a drawing of a phoenix.
Of which phoenix?
Of a phoenix.
Of a phoenix, okay. It doesn't look like the one we fought, just a random phoenix?
Okay, kind of, I guess, looks like the one we fought, but
Okay.
also it's like a 10-year-old showing you a drawing.
Well, that's a good base. With a little bit more practice, I feel like you can get there.
Yeah. I just really think the phoenix was really cool.
I mean, it was also kind of annoying, but it definitely looked cool.
Yeah, but it'd be cool if, like, you can do stuff like the phoenix did.
Yeah, especially like dying and just coming back.
Yeah.
Damn, now I sound like frickin' Abel.
Yeah, you're right. That sounds great. Let's focus on that.
Also, I've been thinking, wouldn't it be cool if Suxley could talk?
That would be super cool. I mean, also, have you seen Saxley? Like, I feel like it's been growing quite a bit.
Yeah, he's getting big. How big do you think he'll get?
Look, my dream would be as big as I need him, as I need to ride it. But I mean, I will settle for smaller if that happens. How Saxley
Or
will
like
develop.
big like Krogma.
I mean, I feel like that would be a little too much. I mean, it would. I mean, I would have to deal with it, I guess. But I guess that would make things different and harder, like especially in cities like Polythreme. Like
Harder to feed 'em.
I already have no idea how we will get Wind in there, but now imagine Wind and behind Wind, like a fucking a freaking insect that is like 4 times the size. I feel like that's not easy to.
I didn't think about that. I forgot how full cities are
Yeah.
after spending so much time in like in the caves.
I mean, understandable, now that we've been so long away from cities. Even when we were in the Dwarven one, it, at least at the beginning, felt quite a bit overwhelming, not being used to it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, here you go, and I will let Saxley like jump from my
Yeah.
arm to Hux's arm.
I'll give him some blood.
By the way, where did Bacala go after our little session? Back to the drinking part, or?
After you'd be done sparring, you'd probably see her sort of go by the barn, take one of the mugs, and just wander back towards her room.
Did she actually like at least look like she was a little bit exhausted from the training, or?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
she didn't seem especially hurt, but she certainly
fair.
seemed to.
At least I wanted to like challenge her. That's all I needed at least. And I will definitely take a bath before I go to bed and get the bruises a little bit.
Evelyn would probably wait until most people headed off for the night. If Rhett wasn't the last one, she would follow eventually Rhett to his room and then like go reach into his bag and just pull out something that nobody else can see. Before like trying to see if she can't do some simple testing with it.
Mm-hmm. What sort of thing do you test?
Mostly she's trying to see if there's anything like scrapings or anything she can get from the eggshell. Trying to see if she can listen to see if there's any growth that's happening, like shifting of, you know when you have like a baby, like a or chicken egg or something like that that's getting close, making sure to study it for any signs of possible hatching. Trying to do some simple
Yes, you
studies of
examine
those.
this egg, especially the shell around it, with your true signs. You notice that at least with your mundane tools, even some of the magical ones you probably would have, you cannot make a single scratch. Similar to a magical item, it seems entirely untouchable by at least somewhat mundane means.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to hold the egg in your hands and focus, or even press it against your ear, you would faintly hear a heartbeat from somewhere inside.
Okay.
It almost vibrates the tiniest bit when you just hold it from this heartbeat. But if you were to just hold it without really taking the time to focus, you'd probably barely even notice it.
For fairness sake and science, she would also cast Identify just to see if that tells her anything that she doesn't already know.
When you cast Identify, you do sense an incredible amount of magic within the egg. You sort of get a feel of a creature in a suspended state. Specifically, if you have something like Detect Magic up,
Yeah, she'd probably throw that off at one point.
you would notice that there is this sort of almost residual magic, sort of like a smell flowing away from it constantly, as if it is shedding part of that magic.
Okay. She'd probably make a bunch of random notes in her book and then like do some simple things of like measuring the weight of it, like doing dimensions of it, and then would eventually go and find Rhett's bag again and put it back in the bag.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the magic that does dissipate from the egg, it's extremely pure and is the
Okay.
color of the School of Necromancy,
Oh, wonderful.
which at first might seem more nefarious, but is simply
Some healing magic is
the
necromantic.
school of reanimation, resurrection,
Yeah.
all of those.
Okay. Okay. There's no way to theoretically capture any of that magic. That seems like is it entirely untangible?
It's
like,
extremely
interacting with
tangible.
it?
It's more like
Yeah.
visualizing a smell that sort of
More like an ambiance kind of moving away
Exactly.
from it, kind of. Okay, just making sure it couldn't be interacted with, at least seemingly from simple tests. All right. Then she'd go to bed.
Okay. You all take another long rest, and as before, comfortably warm, you awaken in the morning.
I imagine morning is somewhat as per the norm of the last day or so. Breakfast and then heading out. At least that's what's in Evelyn's mind.
You do anything specific before you head out?
How far away are we from Polythreme? Theoretically.
You'll probably reach the city, especially at the speed you've been traveling, within a day.
Wow. Rude. Yeah. Okay. Probably then, yeah, heading out by foot. Well, theoretically by foot. Evelyn's just riding on Vince's shoulder, but heading out by foot until Rhett feels like casting whatever spell it is that we're
Windwalk.
using. Windwalk, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you do it at any point earlier this time, or do you again wait until sort of it becomes time where it would be convenient?
Yeah.
Okay. You travel alongside the road for 8 hours. During your final approach to the city, you do notice more of the leather-clad gunmen. This time, however, not riding along the road on horses. Along the long stretching fields of golden grain grow alongside the plains around Polythreme. They stand just off the road, at the edges of the field. For a moment, the question hangs in your mind whether or not they stand here protecting or looking at the road, or simply the closer areas around the city, until you come to the end of one of these fields. The sort of dotted line of guards, generously spaced apart, wraps around the corner of the field, leaving little doubt that they are actually guarding the crops. As to why, the answer grows out of the shadows in front of you as the city begins to loom over your arrival. Still somewhat of a distance away, at first, it almost looks like heaps of trash lie piled against the city's wall. But as smokestacks rise from them, as the distant dots of people crawl and hurry between them, it becomes clear, like an open-cut anthill, an enormous slum has formed just outside of the city gate. It stretches out from the gate's opening in a sort of half circle. Closest to the gate, these rotten and ramshackle huts even begin to pile up on top of one another, as if scrambling for closeness to the gate itself. Thin, muddy roads have formed through this strange growth, only leaving space where people allow it to. Without the guards dotting further along the main road to the city, you're pretty sure that people would have already begun building over it as well. Eventually, you reach the edge of where the fields end and this slum town begins. To either side, a vast stretch of what used to be a sparse forest has been entirely cut down, and even more trees are vanishing as you watch the tree line recede under the axis of the pedestrian. You're still somewhat of a distance away, but as you see sort of these small collections of tents of those that could not yet build houses out of wood along the road, they do look like citizens of other cities, somewhat dressed in different colors than you're used to in Polythreme, most of them tattered by travel or muddied by the muck they currently live in. You would make an estimated guess that, yeah, these do look like refugees.
Are any of the guards somewhat close to the road?
Yes, from these leather-clad guards, there are quite a few of them, even along this central main road towards the city, sort of just walking back and forth.
Are any
Almost
of the
as if
guards
keeping the road clear.
in any sort of regalia that would look like the Polythreme guards, or does these look like all mercenaries?
Similar to the riders you had seen before, you see no regalia whatsoever. No indication that these belong to any sort of specific organization.
Evelyn's doing her best job to not look outright disgusted at like the absolute filth of everything here. Probably half failing.
Mm-hmm.
Instead,
It's difficult.
it's kind of just
Under
instead shifting.
the thousands of boots, the entire area where it used to be, grasslands and trees, has been pretty much razed, leaving nothing but dark mud on the ground, lining every road, every corner of this new slum.
I'm even gonna touch the poor planning and management of all of this. Could have been far more efficient if done otherwise, but it's fine.
You continue wandering along the road, observing the sheer number of people here. People with seemingly nothing, or very little. As your eyes flit over some of the impossibly thin, dark alleyways, you also see the inevitable result of this kind of poverty. As in the shadows you see hooded figures, dead eyes, glinting knives. In the length of your life, you've seen poverty, especially in and around the slums within the city of Polythreme itself. But never have you seen such undampened squalor. And certainly not at such a scale. You pass along the street as per normal, or?
Have we cast, or has Rhett cast Windwalk at this point?
By the time you would have arrived at the edge of the slum, you would not have cast them yet. It probably would have taken you about 7 to 8 hours to get here, which would have left you 8 hours of Windwalk. But the question is whether or not you cast it now, as you have arrived at the outskirts of the city. All you know about currently the defenses of the city. From your experience, you've never really had to fly in and out. You wouldn't have thought it particularly a problem in the past. But you're not quite sure how the new silver constructs would react to it. The only thing you know in that regard is the report you had received from Vidar midway through your travels, where the Silvery Guards apparently formed up to repel another attack from this Dominion.
Yeah, if nothing else, to have it as an option, so Vint, because she would tell Vint to shift into the cloud form, so he at least is not quite as intimidating. Like, so he would just be like, even if we're walking in here, Vint at least would be like wispy cloud-like.
Okay, but you do cast Windwalk.
Yeah. But I think at least the conversation probably would have been to, we can walk for now, but Vint, I'll have him shift to the Windwalk state.
Okay.
Trying her best to not walk in the mud as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like hovering ever so slightly.
Even the
random
road, the sort of rough cobble that the main road is made out of, there's a lot of mud cracked on it, simply from the amount of people crossing it back and forth between these slums at the moment.
Before
As
we
you pass by from crooked windows and running and piling alongside the road, there is this smaller mass of people, old, adult, and children, following your way into the city, stunned by the large cloud hiding your construct at your side.
Also,
Guards at the gate seem much less enthusiastic. It is an odd sight to see both of them together, the Polythreme guards in their yellow and black colors, and further back in the shadow of the gateway, the constructs of silver. one at each side. To the outside, they share the city, even if beyond the wall, they're very much divided.
Before we came close, even to the slums, I would have changed my appearance to be Leia, the servant girl again. Servant
Okay.
girl from Ablin.
Okay. Is approaching the gate with the guards, mostly focusing on the Polythreme guards than anybody else. Evelyn kind of would have probably made her way rather quickly forward and doing her best to kind of focus on the guards and not focus on all of like the mud and filth and terrible states of humanity around her.
What form does Huxley appear in?
Probably over the past few days, he shifted back to his gnome form. So he's just in that.
Okay. The Polythreme guards seem to be sort of the ones standing out in front. You see that the silvery constructs stand no further than basically the very edge of the wall. You do also take note that none of the Polythreme guards nor the silver construct seem to be any further than the immediate area of the gate. None of them seem to be watching what occurs in the slum.
The gates are closed or open?
The gates do stand open. It's the sort of... not really like a tunnel. It's too large to be called a tunnel. It is a wide but long gateway that leads through the entire length of the wall straight into the city.
And Evelyn would probably move to the gate as anyone from any of the upper circles would be like, yep, I have every right to be moving through, and like almost insulted with the idea that someone would possibly even try and stop her. But that's her mannerism, but she is watching the guards.
As you close into the gate, you see that the guards, one to either side, step out into the road and move into the middle, stopping your advance.
She would pause.
Mirroring each other, each guard holds up, the right guard holds up his left hand, the other his right hand in the stopping position. But as you come to a stop in front of them, neither of them speak.
Right. Passage through, please.
There is this sort of pause where you're not quite sure what is going to happen. When the guards, as if telepathically connected, step aside in unison, returning to their positions as another shape takes form from the shadow of the gate. A bishop walks out, the highest rank of the guard, coming down the stone steps of the eastern gate. I had wondered why I had not heard any real trouble for so long, but I see you're back.
That we are. Does this sound like what's his name?
It's been a while. I don't remember either.
Oh no. I have to go back and all my freaking notes.
The note died.
Hold on. I want to say it started with an H, but I could be wrong. Hest?
It does not look nor sound like
Okay.
Hest.
Cool.
You remember Hest as a captain of the Polythreme
mhm.
Guard. Sort of the in-between between
Oh
the
wait,
guardsmen
we were
and
told
the
not to
bishop.
talk to the bishops unless there's an emergency. Right.
Unless they talk to you
Right.
first.
Right.
You had talked to a bishop before,
Yeah,
however.
one that visited Reginald.
Shortly before you went out on the mission and after you returned. You know, they had this sort of, even if it's not exactly the same, there was this sort of vague thing the bishop had described where they are each other but not completely.
Right. Yeah.
But you likely, even as characters, wouldn't remember too much about it, as it was somewhat vague.
I'm only jesting. Was, at least.
You see the armored figure sort of take an exaggerated turn towards the unmoving silver constructs by the gate.
Your efforts have a high measure of meaning. What you did for the Order of the Lycan, what you did for us, and carries weight. I welcome you back to Polythreme in genuine manner this time.
He takes a lined cut bow.
Though you may find it a change. At heart, the city is still the same.
I'd heard word that there was an additional attack, hopefully as much without injury as possible.
Perhaps almost miraculously, injuries there were none.
Oh, that is good to hear.
But a change has persisted in the minds of people. You'll learn once you've entered the city.
Right. The refugees in front of the city. Where are they hailing from?
Not a single place. All over. The flood of refugees has not stopped since the 3 years that the Blight first began. Although it seems like we're long overdue that the city is finally filling out.
Voted. Well, we are glad to be home.
Again, as
Hopefully.
response, you see this nod as the bishop begins to turn and walk back towards the city.
Edwin will move forward to head into the city.
You see the bishop walk up to the gateway, the shadow, and then sort of vanish somewhere into the side. And as you follow the arched gateway, the guardsmen to either side of you, as you pass them, step out once again. The crowd of people that had amassed sort of behind you immediately begins to disperse. And you enter into the city.
We're back, guys.
More bad. Gonna
The
eye
lower
everything.
district had already changed the last time you saw it. When you returned from a long absence in Antogark. But somehow you're still not used to how it looks now. Especially along the main street leading further in and around the city's main quarters. You see the iconography of the Church of the Machine Heart on every wall on banners. It's as though there was a never-ending festival. Every open space needlessly decorated, themed in grey, gold, silver, and every other shade of metallic color available. The initial grim, oppressive atmosphere you had encountered after your return still lingers in the streets at this point. But even as there seem to be even more of the silver construct wandering along the cobblestone, there is this odd sense of normalcy that seems to have returned to the city. The crowds of people pushing through the streets march around the constructs at a wide berth as if almost used to the situation. And while there still seems to be the sort of aura of nervousness in the glances of the citizens as they pass by the constructs, there are many now that seem to pay almost no heed to the Silver Guardians in their daily routine. And you are officially back in the city.
Neat.
Guess who's back?
Now the question is, what is it you want to do? Where do you go?
Should we stop by Quartermain's first or somewhere else?
I mean, there's a couple things we have to take care of, but I feel like Vidar should be one of our first targets.
What time of day is it?
Judging from the shadow as you sort of came into the city, it would be early afternoon. Of course, with keen mind, you know specifically.
I know
that
exactly.
It's early afternoon.
Yeah.
I will pull out my chronosphere and look at the exact time.
Well, because I'm lazy, this world uses the same 24-hour cycle as we do, so
Nice.
exactly 2 p.m.
Cool.
It takes several hours to travel to the upper district, correct?
Going through the entirety of the lower district and up would take you about a good hour and a half at least, if you were to head straight towards the central column from where you entered. Currently you entered over here through the eastern gate, and if you were to follow just simply along the main road and take the shortest way to the center, it would only take you about... Wait, hold on, this is the east. Would only take you about an hour and a half.
To get to the central pillar. Right, so we could head to Quartermain's first to get some things settled and then see about Vidar. Little trickier to get all of you up to see Vidar, but maybe word will have reached his ear that we arrived by that point in time anyways.
Well, just in case, I can always make my way in there somehow. If need be. Well, yeah, sounds good. First Quartermain's.
Well, Beggar, how easy would it be to get everyone up directly to Vidar's?
With the
Like,
markers you currently have, you're not quite sure if they would let you go on your own, but the markers you have do allow you to visit the council hall and make an appeal, which is at the center of the upper district. with your personal markers, you would still estimate, like the last time when you went to the ball that Vidar threw, that even if it takes a little bit of convincing, there's a good chance you could probably get them in.
Okay.
I mean, we could always go to Quartermains and try and use the skull, right? Should be good connection right now. Cause close by.
Almost unnecessary at that point. I'm be very surprised if Vidar doesn't have ears at the gate already. And Mabel will send a word. But we can at least head towards the center barrel and make a choice once we get towards, or we would have to split ways based on our options. So she'll just start heading towards the central spire.
Okay.
Yes, my lady. And he follows.
I'm assuming you keep Wind
S is
moment
cloud.
in the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah. Easier.
Are you
You
sure?
make your way through the roads. You've never really entered from the eastern side before. You've never really had the need to. At first, the city seems, especially in its new colors, almost strange to you. Almost as if it wasn't your home. Until you get to about the inner circle, where the road, the main street, goes around the entire city, where the forges raised above some of the rest of the city begin blaring their heat. And soon enough you walk streets that you are entirely familiar. You walk past the Emporium towards the central shaft of the chamber. And you are to make a choice. What do? You go up?
We'll go up. I'm just trying to decide if we're heading to Quartermains or just straight to Vidar's. We have the metal to get to Vidar, and we've got the baklava.
By the way, how does baklava react to the city?
There is a certain tenseness in her. She follows you through the city. Her eyes seem to be sort of darting around, especially with these large silver constructs, clearly demanding some sort of authority in the city as people parked ways before them. She doesn't ask what they are, but every time they move past, she definitely takes a sort of central place within your
Possibly best to just head up straight to the top and see if I can't get a hold of Vidar then.
Yeah.
Right, so we will head up to the upper district.
Okay, you approach one of the chain lifts that would lead you straight.
How does my condition look? Do I look clean? Like from traveling and everything? Or looking around at our group, do we look like a motley group?
In the Magnificent Mansion, you would have certainly had the means to, have the invisible servants clean and fix your stuff. Whether or not you would have done so would be up to you guys.
Evelyn would have done so, but
I mean, I took a bath. And I have my illusion up, so I don't even look like me right now.
yeah, you're
Should be
fine.
Okay.
I'm not even going to ask about Huxley. 'Cause I know the answer.
Evelyn's just going to quietly ask, like, kind of mutter under her breath towards Rhett, like, can you again gesture at Huxley specifically, and like with a gesture sort of like what he does when prestidigitation.
Okay. Yeah, you sort of almost subtly start, almost as if someone were to sort of wipe the dust off of their child. You just sort of, at a bit more distance, start prestidigitating just dirt off of Huxley.
Right.
Didn't even notice.
You approach one of the chain lifts and the guard in front of it moves out in front. Similar to how they did at the gate.
Marcus,
Evelyn will move to show the marker on her neck. These are some of my aides.
You present the council marker or? the
Oh,
upper
right.
district?
Right, my upper district marker. I guess we could use the council marker.
Your choice.
Thoughts? Thoughts first? Is this like a one-time council marker thing, or is it just allows us to talk to them when we want to? Essentially, try and talk to them when we
It
want
doesn't
to.
seem to be a one-time thing.
Okay.
Might as well use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll use the council marker.
You hold up the council marker and there is a short pause.
Especially with the cloud.
well, best be on your way then. You're late.
Ah.
Steps to the side.
Oh, crap.
And you step into the chain lift and it starts rattling.
No, red.
It takes a good hour. It already takes pretty long to get to the medial district. All the way up, you are looking at iron walls for quite a while. You start to get pretty bored already inside the chain lift.
We're the only
when-
ones in the lift, right?
At the moment, yes.
Evelyn is going to start quickly trying to explain proper protocol for approaching any sort of council. Like, stay silent, don't talk unless you're spoken to. Like, do not interrupt. Like, if you have a question, quietly whisper it.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. We just went over this with the
Yes,
dwarves.
right now, right. So now we're in a different setting, and just make sure to give as much space to allow this to go calmly as possible.
How is it different?
Specifically, are you telling them about just general manners in the upper district, or
Well,
specifically for the council?
more specifically for the council, in the sense of, like, as much as she's aware of like general protocols, like, hey, you can't just walk into a council meeting and speak. But also somewhat like, don't like picket things. Like, she's specifically looking at Huxley and like, don't eat random plants that are standing around. Like, don't. For Huxley, she's going more over like proper manners in general. For the rest, she's sort of like, there's a council. I'm assuming she would be aware somewhat of like council protocol of like, if you were trying to approach the council and have a conversation, or even if you were is there any time where people just kind of sit in on the council meetings?
Oftentimes they will just sit in. When you are speaking at the council, when you are sort of, entering the discussion, there is a definite sort of hierarchy of who not to interrupt.
Right.
And who
Yeah.
to introduce as well if you are new to the council. Usually there is someone introducing you first. There are a certain number of rules that you would be aware of, having been probably in the council just due to your family's
Mhm.
stature in the city.
Right. So she's more telling them essentially like if we're going to the council and that's all we have as an option, which Vidar is most likely there anyways. Crap, I can't go into the council with a cloud.
Just a cloud in the background the whole time.
But yeah, by the way, during your explanation, Soleil is always going, yes, my lady. Of course, my lady. I understand, my lady. He's trying to get into character because he hasn't played Leia in a long time. So he like also like has to like get a little bit the hang of like doing the woman stuff, like a little bit more hip walking and stuff. Like he was terrible at that the first time. He's not getting better so far.
No, Evelyn's just gonna be like, look, we're gonna make a scene. It's going to happen. Don't talk unless I tell you to. That's essentially what she's saying.
Okay, yes, my lady.
They know who they are at this point in time. The council knows who we are. We've helped out in the past.
Sure, my
It'll
lady.
be fine.
Sure, my lady.
She's internally arguing with herself this entire time. Like, this is literally the worst idea ever. But I'm gonna bring Cloud into the council. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send Suxley to scare them all. No.
After this almost gruelingly long time of the chain lift rattling up, the doors slide open. Stepping out, or at least the doors opening of the chain lift in the upper district, especially during the day, is an extremely different experience from going to the medial district, or well, really any other district that has another one above it. There's this immediate, just blinding light that seems to glimmer into the open doors of the elevator. You see these spires of white marble, the mansions, the buildings that stretch alongside the upper district. And of course, all shining brightly in the sun that is above. The sun that much of the other district do not ever get to see much of. As your eyes get used to the light, even if the street wasn't nearly empty around him, even if the massive guardsman didn't move aside, you would have probably noticed him immediately. Still clad in armor of black and gold, a pale face and red eyes framed by smooth black hair, he stands off of the side near the chain lift, a slight sly grin on his face.
Wonderful. Thank goodness.
Listen here, you
Since
little
last
shit.
time, he looks a little older somehow. The mane of his black hair trimmed shorter, his face slightly more gaunt around his eyes, and a beard that looks less neatly trimmed than you would have expected.
Well, he kinda looks like he died again.
I welcome your return to the city.
Evenfall.
We're glad to be back, certainly.
He bows an exaggerated flourish. And of course, may I welcome the Lady Bacala to the city for the first time. There are quite a few things to discuss. I was about to head towards Quartermains. I'd expected you find you there until I got news from the guard. It appears perhaps we are of the same mind, so let us walk We can wander and talk.
Of course.
There have been several things I wanted to speak to you about. But your arrival here today, at this time, may be in good fortune, and I am not one to squander such opportunity. He stops and takes a long look at you. Given the circumstances, that should suffice. If anything, it will play into our card. Council meetings are few and far in between. No one is really looking forward to having frail old men bicker at each other for a few hours.
Hmm.
But we should approach today's regardless. I know this is sudden for you, but... well, it seems like you are somewhat prepared. There is no better time. It's already underway. Our plan here will be simple. We show up. Surely it would seem like quite an interest, us arriving midway near the end, and you new faces, known names. We'll wait for the right opportunity. Walk out together. The current discussion does not stop on its own. I will interject. I'll present your names and you will state your case. There is usually tradition and decorum to be kept in the council hall, but I think it would play in our favor if you do not know them, or if you do, ignore them. He takes a long look at Evelyn.
Fair enough.
Your story is simple. They already know your names. They already know your deeds. You need to convince them only to release Casinthir for the good of the dwarves, the good of our people, whatever. Make a good case. It need not necessarily be entirely true or rational. Appeal to their emotions if you have to. Many do not know Casinthir. At least none of those younger than the nearly 85 years he has remained imprisoned. Those that remember are the ones that need to be convinced. They will remember the terror that the name of a red dragon used to instill. Lucky for us, most of the council already know they're not the ones able to release or forbid the release of Casinthia. If you make a good cause, they will fold. Glad that they are not the ones responsible for making such a choice. That will grant us the authority of the council to act further. Casinthir is imprisoned in the Arak Mountains, close to the secret forge of the Polythreme Guard. The seal is magical and only the wizards of the Archaeon have the means to release it. The Archaeon is no longer part of Polythreme, but they are not what we need the city's authority for. We will save that for another day. The walk through the upper district leads you through rows of mansions, of towers of gleaming white marble, reflecting the red glow of a sun that slowly is beginning to set. Bakala at your side seems more quiet than she was in the lower district. Her eyes have stopped darting around since reaching the district atop the city. Her tense and grim face seems much more relaxed. There's almost the slightest sense of wonder in her as you pass by the many marble structures. At the center of the upper district, rising out of the central pillar that stretches throughout the lower district, stands the central spire, a colossal tower that is made of the same marble as the rest of the district. In its circular base, lies the chamber of the council. A large round hall of spectacular size. The sort of forum of pillars and rows of marble benches that stretches for hundreds of feet. But of course you would have been there before, Adrian, as mentioned before. There any questions you ask on the way?
Well, has Vidar glanced at the cloud following us at all? Like, I'm assuming he can understand what that is, right?
Yeah, he's been looking at it.
Yeah, okay.
Probably just for a moment before addressing you, but
Yeah,
he did not entirely seem to care at all.
perfect. As long as we're on the same page going in.
Who exactly is it that we do have to convince?
Well, for one, it depends on who is present. As long as there is a majority of those voting vote for us, the motion will be accepted. The appeal granted. Before I left, there was a larger discussion. I know that Lorling is there. I'll point him out once we arrive. If they are still talking, I can interject on his behalf. That should perhaps win him over to us already. Then, of course, always sitting in, there is Krastor, the Forge Master.
Right.
I'm not sure of his mind. That is probably the most dangerous part in this day. Predictable people are, of course, easy to sway. But with him I do not know.
I'm assuming those are Rat's
Unfortunately,
questions.
most of the cleansers have departed the city. Some of the high cleansers, even Heribald, are still in the city. I have not seen them at council meetings in quite a while.
That's good, he brings a lot of money to the venerable swordsman.
The council is unaware of the information we have specifically gathered of the Dominion. At the moment, I do not think it is necessary for them to know the name of who attacks them. I have eyes and ears open, of course. Should anything come to light about the Dominion, I can make the connections. And if need be, I will inform the council. But for our current purpose, it will not be necessary.
Regarding the arrangements that we have as to why we need to release Ginthier, is that something that should be discussed? The trade.
Regarding Gesinthier, only try to get his release secured by talking about the needs of the dwarves, perhaps. The inherent humanity of keeping someone locked up. Anything you can drum up in that regard. I do not think it necessary or furthering our cause to bring the Dominion into this matter.
Very well.
Yes.
Transmitting.
I don't know why though.
There's a thunderstorm going on in your microphone.
Is it gone now?
It's still there. It's like it's like a static behind your voice.
I have no sounds on anywhere.
Might just be like the cable.
Hmm.
Just thought I'd let you know.
Rhett's question.
Yes, that would be one of the main arguments. I'm assuming, though I have not spoken with him, that is the reason why Thorlig wants him free. There is nothing that could burn swaths of lands as efficiently as a dragon.
Good. Good.
Is he referring to him as a title Red Dragon, or is he calling him an actual dragon?
Roll me an insight check.
He's certainly calling him a dragon so far.
That's a 16, 17.
As far as you could tell from his face when he said either of those mentions, he had a completely straight face. He did not seem to be lying at all. And Vidar doesn't seem like the
Yeah.
type specifically to use honorifics
Yeah.
titles like that, especially since he's just called him Gesinthier as well multiple times.
Right.
I turn around to Bakalar. Can you also turn into a dragon?
What? No.
Why? Can he turn
Doesn't
into a
happen
dragon?
with everyone.
Oh. So it's random, or is it like a gene
I don't
thing?
know, it's
or-
genetic or something.
Mhm. Leaning over from her to Hugs. A dragon is something we haven't ridden before, right?
Oh gosh.
I want to be able to turn into a dragon.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
That'd be so awesome.
Right.
I
Well
should start
then.
to practice.
I know Vidar just referenced that you don't have to worry about protocols in the council, but if we could maybe refer to not reference riding animals or things or beings or creatures, I would personally appreciate that as a personal favor.
Oh, okay. So I'll still follow the rules, or
Oh no, just that for me. Just if we could leave that section out of any conversation.
like no transforming.
No, it's well, you probably shouldn't transform. Unless you
Okay.
really think it's necessary. But your habits of riding animals and creatures aren't really the point of the meeting, so shouldn't need to come up for any reason.
Okay. So no riding on animals.
Especially not during this meeting.
Okay.
Just for this meeting. I don't care anywhere else. Just do me that favor for this meeting.
Okay.
But yes, you know what? I'll say I don't care if you ate the plants if it means that you don't ride on animals.
Okay.
I guess it
I'll
depends on
eat
the
the
occasion.
Evelyn is just so done. Just rubbing her temple like it's fine, fine. It's fine.
What if we have to flee for some reason, and like it's gonna be quicker when we fly, and I have to hop on Huck's back? It's
If there
probably
is
not
an
gonna.
emergency situation.
Yeah.
I
I would anticipate that that would override anything I'm telling you.
Okay. Otherwise, why would we just randomly write something in the middle of a meeting?
There's plenty of things that you both do that I ask why for. I wouldn't put it past either of you, honestly.
I mean, that the same goes for you, but we don't judge you.
Right, but I know the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, good for you then. We also know why we write things, because it's enjoyable. Red is like, really? This is the topic we're talking about right before.
You guys just instantly started talking about riding dragons. She's like, oh, cool. This is gonna all of a sudden be like, we can release him, and then can you imagine we could ride him? Like, I'd just be like, nah, we're out. Bye.
The main reason we want to free this criminal is to ride on his back.
Oh no.
Before long, you arrive at the central spire, at the grand staircase leading into the largely open hall. And as you approach and pass by the ring of captains of the Polythreme guards, none of them stop you, even as their visors follow your movement.
No, the cloud
Vidar
blocks him.
marches straight through the passageway until he reaches the archway that opens into the circular chamber. He pauses, moving slightly to the side, seemingly expecting you to follow.
Evelyn follows.
Wait here for a moment. Listen close for the right opportunity.
Understood.
The voices inside ring out clearly through the assembled rows of benches, filled with hundreds of people, all finely dressed, all members of the city's highest stations. A man at the far end of the circular hall is speaking loudly, and though hundreds of feet away, his voice is as crystal clear as if he stood right next to you. It has been 3 years since many of you yourself have lost contact. Some of you may not even know if your loved ones, if your old homes still stand. It has been 3 years since we even knew in our minds that there are more living beyond the ocean, beyond the borders of our continent. Borders none of us have been able to cross. Even just past the city. What of the south? What of the east? How dare we forget to remember? It's more than a project of vanity. My research is for us to reconnect so that we can stand together again. Vidar leans over to you. Enoran Lorling, aside from myself and Reginald, the highest capable wizard remaining in the city. His presence here is opportunity. Wait for a moment. Once his argument is attacked, like yours will be. There is a short silence after the man speaks. And just as predicted, another man rises from his seat, dressed in a more elaborate garb. Why, just, pray tell, such heavy investment of funds. while refugees pile up outside of our gate. Have any of you seen the masses? If not for the guarding of the gates and the efforts of the merchants' guilds, I say the lower districts would be overrun, the fields plundered. How can we expend such value when our conflict with Antog has shown us the fragility of our supply lines? All of us need to eat, so do they. Why are there no silver guardians keeping order outside, for that matter? The silver guardians remain where they should, in the city with the faithful of the machine heart. A haggard man rises from the crowd. Forge Master Crasto. We'll wait not to interrupt him. And that is where they will remain. You have experienced firsthand that they can protect the city despite interferences from the old guard. And I promise you, I can swear to it, they will protect the city by the grace of the forge of our greatness. I support Lawling's research. These refugees are not of the city. If we have time and place to have them elsewhere, I say good. If, when the circles can work, as my research suggests, all of these problems can be not. We can reconnect to places that give our people access to resources, close in trade routes, establish once more settlements outside. I know what I am asking for, but at this moment, Vidar steps forward and he motions you to follow.
Follow
And
without
he
missing a step.
steps out into the circular hall. And there is another. Councilman Velenin, Vidar, you yourself have taken steps to research this technology. In your own words, do you not believe in its potential? I do. And while it takes effort, and no small one to establish, I have proof that it works. My companions here, you know them in their deeds. Miss Quartsilver, Quartermains, just this afternoon have returned from High Tier. There's this murmuring that echoes through the crowd. And one of the many people stands up. Does the city of dwarves still stand? And then there is a voice just behind you. Aye, we're still fucking alive on our own. Thank you for your concern. Not that you were helping any. Bakala bursts out. And she almost seems a little taken aback as her voice, amplified by the hall's magic, echoes around the entire chamber. Again, there is murmuring, and Vidar interject again. May I also present Bakalar, Gesinthier Dottir. At this point, the murmuring almost turns to shouting through the amplification of voices. Until Vidar again holds up his hands. There is an appeal Evenfall would like to present. And he steps aside.
Wonderful. Of course, this is the time where Rhett can't talk quickly. I'm just going to point that out.
No,
You
I'm
jerk.
sorry.
No, it's fine. Edwin will kind of step slightly forward. Council, we've been to High Tier and the Dwarven City as
Councilmember Vidar has so informed you, and in doing so, in our travels, we have seen how far the blight has spread, and the devastation and destruction it's leaving in its wake. Even now, the dwarves still fight against the blight, and as it gets closer to their very doorsteps, as it gets closer to ours, I have spoken with their leaders, and their request is that we release Githinthier to them and allow him to protect their people. Allow him to fight the blight. Having him holed up in a prison cell when thousands are dying and losing their homes and resources are being cut off is simply not where we're in a position to stand anymore. We could have allies with the dwarves, find new ways to actually fight back against the blight. Rhett interjecting intermittently. And, as he does. We could actually start mending relationships, walking up to the city, seeing the mass of refugees. It's only going to grow more if we continue to do things as we are. If we don't take aggressive maneuvers, it won't be long before there will be nowhere else to go.
And what, pray tell you, the Forge Master stands up again, would you do, either of you, if this dragon decides maybe it's time to take revenge?
It is my understanding that Githinthier went to prison of his own will. He surrendered himself. He understood the repercussions of his actions, even though they possibly saved thousands of lives in doing so. Why would I assume that he would take revenge for something that he laid himself to do himself? He gave himself up. It was his choice to go willingly. And I think that he would understand that now, as his people call for him, as his daughter asks for him to come home and to aid them in their fight, they would understand that is a far more important goal than any sort of revenge that we can be allowed to have currently.
A decent answer. I myself would welcome the challenge of Githinthier attacking the city. Perhaps then people would finally be convinced to the value that I have brought to the lower district, to the safety and security I provide.
Forgemaster, while I appreciate the quick defense and faith you have in your guard, I am concerned that you would be so ready to instigate and call for an attack on the walls of our city, even if to prove the power of their worth. I've seen people die. I've seen people fall and have watched them go before me. And
the sort of finely dressed gentleman from before stands up. And the Merchants Guild have seen most of it. We've lost most of it. Our trade routes are the only thing keeping us alive. You are in favor here of breaking out a dragon that has before burned down a forest of colossal proportions. What if this dragon attacks Antogag, even without the problems of another escalation of war? The entire system of food supply would collapse within a day. What then?
I feel like I should let Rhett finish typing
Yeah.
before answering, because I keep inadvertently cutting him off, and I feel bad for it. And technically, Soleil might be better off answering regarding Antikar, but you know, that's Soleil's choice.
Saleh has been told to basically shut up during this whole thing.
I told you not to. I told you you didn't have to. Vidar said to
Yeah.
do. You don't have to follow protocol. Don't try and throw that back at me.
No, it's fine. He's just a
Okay,
little
those
bit.
are just the interjections. Fair. Agreed.
From the crowd, you see someone stand up who is a significant portion taller than all those sitting around him, as one of the garden's bishops had been sitting in the crowd.
Unilaterally, the Guard supports the motion to release Casinthia. Even false actions in the past have stood on their own in favor of the city. Some of these questions are not one that can be answered immediately. Some of these are questions that one must rely on their experience to choose. In the past, even Fall has done enough for the city that we should count ourselves lucky that we can now consider our food supply breaking in. Without an intervention at Entogag, we would already be at war. We would already be starving.
The god sits back down. Yes, what the weirdly dressed bard just said. These gates, the entire purpose of them, it falls into everything I've just presented, gentlemen. Of course I would support this appeal. All in favor? You see a few hands go up. You see Vidar raise his hand. You see the Bishop of the Guards raise his hand. There are a couple of people you do not know in between that raise the hand. But in general, there is this sort of murmured silence going
Does-
around as everyone sort of looks at each other to see who is voting how.
Does it look like we have the majority?
There is
Yeah.
not a majority of people, not by a long shot. Out of 100-something people attending, there are maybe 10 hands up in the air. But you only need the majority of those who actually vote. And as Lawling lowers his hand, as Vidar and the rest voting for you lower their hand, after a pause, he asks again, "Those against?" There's this long silence. From the merchant, you see the hand rise. In response, 1, 2, another hand rises. A total of 3.
Ah.
You notice, specifically, though he interjected, the Forge Master voted in neither way. And therefore, the motion is accepted. Your appeal is accepted. Cynthia is to be released, though, as I believe you had already known, he looks at Vidar. That is not entirely in our power to do so. Moving on, moving back, the appeal to support my funding. Those 4, and you see the council sort of almost continue as if it wasn't a big deal. Of course, for a moment, Vidar remains to raise his hand in support. And the motion seemingly passes as further matters are discussed, and Vidar just sort of, with a slight bow, steps backward and returns to exit the council chambers.
Heaven will follow.
Good. A fortunate outcome. But probably largely expected and not our biggest hurdle.
Right.
You have the Mithra, I presume.
Everyone will glance
Aye.
specifically. Yeah.
All there? Good. Then you may accompany me. There is much to be done, and it will take a while. We will speak more to each other these coming weeks. But for now, you have just arrived. You should probably return to Quartermain. There was something, actually. Do you remember a reporter by the name of Late?
Don't believe so.
He was recently at my residence, asking about you. It seemed urgent. I believe they left a note with Quartermain. But something seemed odd about them.
When was that?
Perhaps 1 or 2 weeks ago.
That is interesting. We'll certainly look into that. When you say something seemed off, how so?
I did not meet them at my residence. I met them in passing. And they did not recognize me, though we had a run-in in the past. They also seemed gaunt, nervous. I did not think much of it, but your reaction makes me think there may have been more. Perhaps
Yes.
something I should have paid attention to.
She'll take a moment to kind of pause and recognize and like glance around rather subtly, like we're out in public, kind of a like glance.
Mm-hmm.
Just as you mentioned it, I think we've had a crossing of paths in the past as well.
Well, if it turns into anything of concern, just inform me of it. Either
Of
way,
course.
they were wanting to speak with you.
I shall look for their message.
Otherwise, anything else about from certain informants? Or about certain planes? New information?
I had inquired around. About this plane you were mentioning. There are several demi-planes that could match the description, all created by powerful entities, none particularly relevant, as none of them seem to be around anymore. It is rather vague, but Easterville had mentioned she had wanted to speak to you.
Istaville. Well, that's the name I haven't heard in a while.
It is not a name I would have expected to come across during my research. Whatever the connection, she seemed hesitant to share. Perhaps you have more luck.
I mean, we've got some history with her. Yes, she owes us. Do I remember correctly that was the one that got murdered and we
Mhm.
kind of brought her spirit back and stuff?
She's a warforged.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Cool.
That's the one who lost all of her secret knowledge
I was-
that I
I
needed.
was-
You know,
I
it's
was
fine.
I was just surprised that I actually remembered it. So
Mhm,
that I wanted to make sure that I actually
on my
remembered
list.
it. Oh God, that sounds terrible.
The list.
She's on my
Now
list.
writes down late. Again. Yeah. That sounds like a good info. And from the informant that had a connection with you a while ago and wanted to call back if they found something out. Anything from that side?
Not so far.
God damn it, Noshrad.
Well, there is things I've heard not directly from the source.
Oh, you were planning like dream stuff, or what did you have in mind, Red? Yeah, cool. We can do that.
Regarding the situation of Antogark, for the moment at least, war seems to be off the table. Your friend is Noshran. He seems to have deft-handed statesmanship, even if he's not the one in charge. It seems that many of the mercenaries have diverted mostly to efforts of combating the Blight, which I must say is quite a clever stroke. No doubt this fight will cost them many lives. Ensure that they are weakened ensure that they are paid. And perhaps they're even successful. But no, of the situation, there is no news.
Well, at least that's good news that the war has been, at least for now, been off the table.
Speaking
Oh.
of,
I did not tell you, did I? The Baron has died.
Oh. Oh, I mean, not really. Oh, wasn't this
Well,
something
that
we kind
is-
of expected?
A stalemate, currently.
I don't think we knew that. He had locked himself away for 2 days, per my notes that I recently glanced at, and nobody had heard from him when we left.
Yeah, but we as a group, I feel like, have discussed this would probably happen because there was a certain someone who wanted to get the power of the Baron, and
Yeah.
who will try to. Who would? I mean, we thought about it that he would probably try and take over at some point. And when we
There
heard
is
that the
a
Baron was kind of locked away for a
Stalemate
couple of days.
amongst the families. But of course, the court favors Villain.
Of course.
For now, however, it is probably best to put your faith where it had been with Noshrad.
Good boy.
But speaking of mercenaries, there is I noticed as we were heading back, there is a consistent flow back and forth from the mountain to the east gate. Any
Yes,
Thing
the
going on?
Merchants Guild doing. They are trying to keep them off the roads, as well as protect the fields around Polythreme. I'm sure you've noticed within the council chambers their paranoia as to the supply of food around the city is as high as it has ever been. Certainly they don't want any of the refugees in the slums to plunder the fields at night.
fair enough. Yeah, I'm sure. But ours not going anywhere, right?
We can also do some of that with also like dream stuff and such if you wanted to do in your off time, in the off time. Speaking of which, is there anything you wanted to do immediately in the time or in the town or?
Why ain't go figure out
Yeah.
what letter was left
Yeah.
by late?
100%
Yeah,
that.
man.
Probably heading back to Quarterway.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Chicken
at least
and-
almost as important, I do have these two very old drow bottles of wine for Kara. So
Mhm.
this is gonna be a present because Kara will probably like some good old vintage wine. I feel like those are evenly important. But yeah, afterwards I also would like to visit the Venerable Swordsman to check out if we have earned any money. And afterwards, if we have earned any money, I would also like to go back to the good old Emporium. Because before we left, I asked them to kind of get me a bag of holding.
Mhm.
because they didn't have one in stock beforehand, and I still have a little bit.
There was several other items you had also requested, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, which ones were that again? I don't remember the rest. I just remember the bag of holding.
Go back on my note.
There was the other bag that was requested.
The half
for
a sack.
disposal of things.
Bag of devouring.
Oh, the bag of
Yeah.
devouring. Yeah.
The mean one.
Okay. Yeah. That's
I
cool
believe
too.
you were looking for an item capable of changing your voice. And
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
believe Red had given the custom order to find something that would let him understand languages.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So these things, yeah. And I would also still like to find an enchanter to finally get my notebook enchanted. So no one can actually read it until they use a fucking...
Before I see it.
Yeah, before you see it, and
Mhm,
before,
mhm,
just
mhm.
like before anyone finds it and can read it without the proper command word. That's an enchantment I would like to find someone for. And yeah, I want to do the dream thing with Red then. And of course I want to visit my old buddies from the mines that I kind of made friends with. I want to see if they're alright. And I feel like that's... I already talked to Vidar, so that I can cross off my list about the things he had. Yeah, and of course, yeah, I mean, talking, yeah, with Istavan, or whatever her name was. Istavil, yeah. That's also on the list during our off time, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So that's stuff you wanted to do in the off time. Is there anything you would have wanted to do immediately outside of before the off time?
I mean, the first thing we would do just immediately go back to Quartermains, I guess.
Yes. The message.
I've been walking with determination.
Okay.
Excuse me?
Well, as always, it is easier to get down in Polythreme than it is up.
Mhm.
And after a short
Story of
10-minute rattle down the central chain lift, you arrive in the medial district.
Just a quick question. Was Baklava, Baklava, whatever her name was.
Baklava.
Bakalar, I think it is. Was she going with Vidar or staying with us?
Bakala was leaving with Vidar.
Vidar. Okay.
Partially, maybe not only because she has the metal
Mm-hmm.
that Vidar required.
Yeah.
Were there plants in the council chamber? I need to know.
Yeah, there's probably some, shrubbery in pots alongside the walls.
You will have to bring us a shrubbery. Doo-doo.
Huxley was still munching on some of the leaves in the elevator. A little confused because he doesn't usually eat plants.
Head back. Quartermains. And try not to think about whatever random plants Huxley's eating. And any random side effects that could come with those. Because Huxley's just weird, so any side effects that probably would happen to most people probably wouldn't happen to Huxley. And, Huxley also drinks, like, black water and blackberries, so... Fine.
I mean, yeah, it's just munching on
What's a
something.
plant gonna do, really?
Animals do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I can wild trip into animals.
There was a thing I wanted to do during the downtime. as a player, but it was just not something that that Soleil would have done. I wanted to hire a detective to get to know fucking more about Ablin's dead husband. That's what I, as a player, would love to do. Just sending, like, hire someone.
You're about to talk to a journalist.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
sure.
Freaking mouth.
But yeah, that's. I was, as a player, thinking about it, and then I was like, no, like Soleil, no, wouldn't do it like this. This just doesn't fit him. That's just because I am very interested in this.
Wow.
So I'm not gonna do it. I hope I will find out soon enough.
So, Baker, if I get back to Quartermains, look around. I mean, sure, we got Aelith there. We're like, hey, Aelith, do we owe you money? Sure. How are you holding up? How's Reginald been? Do you have a letter for me?
You have a letter? But
Do you have a letter?
Did you have a letter?
Yeah, fine about Reginald, but do you have the letter?
Yeah, okay. Reginald, sure.
But,
But a letter.
letter.
Letter?
You arrive at Quartermains, and of course, as expected, you find it much as it has been. Visually, at least, it is unchanged. But then again, even after the first attack, it was unscathed. So, unless the floor gave out underneath the building, you'd wager nothing would ever change.
Oh, we didn't ask for a payment from Vidar.
You knock on the door.
Yeah. No, she just walks in. She doesn't knock on the door.
You just walk right in.
Yeah. She's on a mission to figure out what the crap.
The door flings open with this sort of half bang as the door swing towards the wall and kind of hit it on the side. And there's this immediate, you hear some crashing of plates. The door to the kitchen flings open. And you see Aelith look out, just sort of staring open mouth.
Right, Aelith, just the person I'm looking for.
What? You're back?
Yes, just arrived.
When?
Back. Just today. Just had to go.
Good to
Just
see
back.
you all alive and well.
Do you have a note for me?
Others will... Oh, well, yes, but I mean, Reginald has been... Did you want to...
Does Reginald have the
note.
note?
No, I have the... He sort of pats himself down.
Oops.
I may have left it in the kit. One second.
Oh, Vince, just go over here to the workshop. Have a seat. Chair
Have
there.
a seat.
I'm gonna have to tell Aelith about that, right? Nope, someone else can take care of it.
I would just tell him to like go crouch
And
in the workshop.
he comes outside again just as he witnesses this sort of cloud pushing in, move around the corner, and go into the workshop.
Don't go in there. It's easier. Ask
you
Red.
see him holding
Do you
a
have-
letter in his hand.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just gonna reach up and try and take the letter.
He sort of, as you sort of almost lunge for it, he just sort of lets go as you grab the letter. The reporter
Wonderful.
was here and he wanted you to have. Did
Yep.
you?
I'll take care of this. Thank you so
Right.
much. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, Rhett, Slay.
Cool. And then she just walks off, heading up to her room.
Sorry, Aelith. She's been on edge, kind of. It's nice to see you
Did
again.
you say that still as Leia, or?
Yeah,
you
not
changed
even
it?
trying to change the voice, just...
Goes to her room.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
You see
Aelith.
Aelith sort of just rubbing his eyes for a moment.
Oh, sorry, and he snaps and turns back
It's,
into Soleil.
Been a couple of weeks. I was not used to this energy anymore. I'm sorry. Reginald just sort of lounges around. Kara's been drinking a lot, and
So everything
she's
is like
not,
normal.
she's not here right now. She's in the city somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Reginald is here, and the Ithaliana is here, but yeah. What's how have you been?
Well,
Where have you been?
not great.
Actually,
Always. We have visited the dwarfs in the north. Was an interesting
Oh.
experience. But
didn't realize there was dwarves.
yeah, there you go. Are you doing fine with like? Do you need more money and stuff to like fill the kitchen? Are there enough carrots? Is Red asking? I saw Red is gonna ask about the carrots if there are enough.
Yeah, the bin's still. I've been replacing the old ones, so sometimes they get a little bit. He doesn't. Sometimes he eats less than, and it gets a little bit moldy. But yeah, there's money. There's been something from Vidar in the meantime as well.
Oh, nice.
It's been quiet here. Not much going on. The dorks visited a couple times, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't here, so yeah.
The note you
quiet.
got. The note you got. Was that someone you already knew, or?
No, it was late.
Ah, okay. Okay. He was just late. Nothing different about him, or?
Well, it did seem a little bit weird about it, but
Can you like put a finger on
he
it? What
kept
exactly
looking
was
past
weird?
the doorway to see if you guys were in when I told him you weren't. And then he just handed me the note and just kind of ran off.
All right.
Weird guy. I mean, journalist. Yeah, I wonder if he got fired from his job. He hasn't written anything in since that one time before you guys left. Maybe I was like a little bit too hard on him for being like, I was hard on the newspaper, I guess, which if they fired him, that's fair, for changing the thing. It was like, maybe he got fired and anyway.
Right. Nothing else in the meantime. Everything normal so far.
Well, Kara's been drinking more.
More even.
He's been seeming a little angrier recently.
Did something happen?
No, not really. Maybe, I kind of get the feeling that's because nothing happened.
Oh yeah, she's probably frustrated that she doesn't really.
There was that one attack, that was big news, but there was right outside behind Quartermains, but it was so quick I didn't even. It barely happened and it was already over.
What do you mean an attack? What exactly do you mean with that?
Well, the guys were back. The guys that attacked the first time.
They were
City?
back?
Yeah. Well, not the same guys, but there was like lightning, and then the silver constructs came out of the ground. They like burrowed through the medial district or something, and then they. I don't even really know what. I didn't see it. I just read about that.
How long ago was this?
Several weeks ago.
But after we left, right?
Yeah.
Oh. That is interesting to know. Would you know of someone who knows more? Does Reginald know more about this, or do you know someone else?
Well, I'm sure the guard would know.
All right. Guess we could also ask Vidar actually about this at some point. But that is good to know. Thank you. I didn't know that these came back, or at least very similar people. Yeah, I mean, good thing you guys were in here. This seems to be like a very impenetrable kind of fort, for whatever reason. Still haven't figured that one out.
And, I mean, you know, sorry walls, I guess.
Yeah, well, I doubt any kind of normal wall would hold up against these kind of foes, but...
Oh, I mean, it was probably like, I don't know, Reginald or something.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's really hard to talk to Reginald about this stuff. Feels like he probably has done the spell to protect this house at some point, but has no idea about it anymore or something. I don't know. Reginald can be... I mean, you know it best, right? You have spent a lot of time lately with him.
Yeah,
Alone.
I mean, forgetfulness is, you know, an age thing. Sometimes I can't even remember where I put my knife, you know.
And you're not even that old.
Exactly.
Anything heard from all the others that we've spent time with at some point? Like Catherine and stuff?
Well, they haven't exactly been over to visit.
Yeah, I was just
Think
wondering if you heard anything.
No, not really. I know they're around, I think. I mean, they could have left and I wouldn't really know.
Okay. Right, would you mind, would you have the time to prepare a little bit of a meal for us?
Yeah, sure, of course. It's actually been a while since I've prepared a proper meal. Anything in particular? You just want some, I don't know, soup?
I mean, if you had some fish, I would kinda like that.
Fish. Alright, I could get some. Yeah, I could make some fish.
Nice.
Seems sort of hurry back into the kitchen.
Soleil immediately looks at Red. What the fuck was happening here? Yeah, that's how I feel too. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess Evelyn has a note. Maybe it explains something, but we should probably let her know that the Dominion seems, at least, like maybe the Dominion was back here. That they had another attack. We should definitely let her know.
Evelyn was informed by the doctor.
Yeah, I knew about it.
Oh, okay, but we didn't,
I
right?
think I technically told Red.
Okay.
Did you? You didn't tell anyone else, though, did you?
I didn't tell anybody
No,
else.
I'm
Right.
pretty sure
But I
you
told
didn't tell
Red.
me. Yeah.
Listen, I share some news.
Red is just gonna join Kara for a few days, just gonna drink his ass off.
Gotta find her first.
Yeah. Look, we three can kill the wine that I brought. And hope it's still fine to drink.
For note, Beggar, I'm going to cast Identify on this letter before I open this.
Okay, you cast
Just-
identify.
Just to make sure.
It's paper.
Perfect. I still don't trust it. But I'm gonna very carefully open this letter.
You carefully
Keeping it at arm's distance.
open the letter and pull out the paper and sign. In almost too perfect handwriting, as if it had taken a long time to write each letter. The letter simply reads, "Meet me where I first interviewed you." And then there's a distance between the beginning and the end of the letter, and it just says, "Signed, Nate."
Wasn't that at the
That
Venerable
was at the
Swordsman?
Venerable Swordsman, yeah.
I mean, that's a place where we wanted to go anyway, so I guess.
It's just gonna grab Kieran, turn around, walk. and just without if you do not stop her, she's going to walk out the door without saying a word to anybody.
In the meantime, like, Soleil is basically is going up the stairs, trying to search for Evelyn, and is like, I have to tell you that the Dominion attacked again a couple of weeks ago, and
Right,
we have to
I
find more.
I know that they attacked. It's all sorted out. They all took care of it. I've got to go. I'm gonna go check on something.
Oh,
She just keeps
okay.
walking.
Soleil is just confused. What was in the letter?
Did he ask?
Yeah, as she storms out, like he's gonna, like,
Yeah. If she, I'm gonna go find him.
Do you know where he is?
Supposedly the Venerable Swordsman. So, I'll be back.
We wanted to go there anyway.
If
so.
you want. Sure. But I'm walking, so if you want to come now. And she's
Red,
gone.
I can take care of her if you want to take some rest. You look like fucked.
She'll say, she'll at least call back to someone. Keep an eye on Vince. Not that he needs anyone to keep an eye on him, but that's all on her mind.
My lady, please wait! And Soleil follows.
Okay.
What does Hux do? Is Hux gonna stay here or follow us too? Or?
Well, if everyone's leaving, he's following.
Okay.
Wait, where are we going?
She probably left Kieran actually behind.
Okay.
Yeah. She's gonna have left Kieran behind. Specifically, and told him to stay in the room or stay with Mint. But that's it.
Oh.
No, that was a banjo.
Yeah. Dog.
Banjo.
Oh.
That dog.
Soleil leans over
Banjo.
to Red and says, "Oh, that's a rare sight. Usually Kieran's always at our side. You think there's a reason Kieran is not there right now? Is she able to make him invisible now, or is he just quartermates?"
You need to finish. There you go. I was like, where's the second part of that statement? There we go.
The first part wouldn't have made much sense, right? In front of him,
Honestly,
That just gives-
Evelyn probably like takes a couple of shortcuts, in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this road is crowded. If it is, and just like flies over it until she can get to a different street.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's not thinking about anybody else, and she is very concerned about the letter she got.
Alright, Hux, could you give me another ride? I feel like we have to keep up with Evelyn.
You don't have to.
Sure.
She's just gonna
Before she
stand
does
outside
something-
the bar for a minute and stare at it. That's what, because to be clear, that's what she's gonna do. Is just stare at the bar for.
Look, you are hurrying towards the person you murdered, and without like,
You would too.
yeah. So that's why I feel like it's a better idea to be there if she actually meets him again, just in case.
Going down the chain lift and
Yeah.
cutting through side streets, you quickly stand before the venerable swordsman.
Gonna study it and stare at it, and to look for any sign of late from outside.
You see light streaming from the door. Through the windows at the side of the tavern, you only see a couple of empty rooms. Sort of, as every tavern has, rooms for rent. None of them seem to be occupied. The great window you pass by, the one that would show you more of the inside, its curtains were drawn close. But from underneath the door you see the flicker of the fire. And you hear the chatter of voice.
She's probably just gonna observe. I don't know how long it'll take, but she's probably like 5 or so minutes, just kind of watching.
In those 5 minutes, nothing else happened.
Only that her friends catch up with her.
Imagine once everyone's there, she begrudgingly will be like,
Right, well, just might as well go in and check on business, right?
Yeah.
You're fling open the door. And you look around. You see a couple of patrons. You see behind the counter a familiar face. And immediately as the door opens, you see him just wave. Ah! And start heading towards you. In the corner, you see a guard, Polythreme guardsman, drinking. And you see
again,
it sitting on a table. Can you roll me an insight check?
absolutely. With a 13.
You see him look up as the barkeep head along towards the door, almost excitedly waving at you. And as his eyes follow and he sees you, his eyes remain. And he just sits there drinking.
Endor, it's, good to see you. How has business been going?
She's like half distracted, like trying
It's,
to look at him,
it's
looking
so
past
good
him.
that you're back. It's been a couple of weeks, let me tell you. There was this whole thing with Antogag when after you came back, and then
Right.
anyway, it's up and up downs. So a lot of the other places, a lot of other taverns, they've been having some serious losses recently. You see, with the Machine Heart Church spreading so much, there's like a lot of. Well, the other taverns haven't been doing too well. You
And
saw
you're-
a couple of those guys outside last time, right?
Right.
Well, they haven't been back. Let me
Wonderful.
just say that up front. We've been faring, in comparison, amazingly. Probably because of some of the clientele in here. He sort of looks over into the corner where a guardsman is drinking.
Haribo's still coming here regularly?
Sometimes, not as often. I think they're kind of leaving the city a little. Grain prices right now skyrocketing. We still have some on stock, but it's gonna go up a little bit. Profits are down a little bit, about 23%. But your earnings, I have 37,000 in the back room, waiting for you to grab them. If you're here for. If you're ready for, I don't know how it is
I'll-
with
I'll let,
security. I don't really want to keep that much in the tavern.
Oh, that's
I've
fair.
sort of just been accumulating in.
Reds and, Leia can take care of it.
Do you need some of the earnings to do some like repairs or maintenance stuff for the tavern, or is everything?
Oh no! By all means, that's already taken care of out of my cut. That's like, that's just
Okay.
This is just your stuff.
Okay, good, nice.
if you want, Leo, did you want to go retrieve that now with Rhett? Or however, I guess Rhett, it's more convenient for you. Yes.
You see Ender turn around, and as he heads back, he looks at Late, and then he, on one foot sort of turns around. There was, so, Late's been coming here still.
I heard.
He
I'll take care
wanted
of it.
to speak to you again. It was, alright. Just, okay.
She's just gonna make her way over
You
and
follow
sit across from
and
him at the
come
table.
to the back, and Rhett, Leia, whoever takes it, you receive 37,000
Holy
gold
shit.
pieces in various denominations.
Did Red have like already like a half a sack or something?
He's got a handy haversack.
Okay, cool. Because I don't think this would be a nice amount to carry around.
You see sort of just shovel the coins into the haversack. And Evelyn, you
I
see-
want to look Late over as I move to take a seat across from him. And look for any signs of injury, of being
question.
eaten.
you have true sight up.
I do. I have my goggles on. As she approached, she's gonna she's gonna look him over, and then shift her goggles down because she does not believe any of this in front of her right now.
You give me a investigation over perception because it's detailed.
Investigation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she will mind.
It's 21.
You notice that somehow, ever so slightly, Late seems more gone than he used to. You also, with your keen mind, remember exactly how he used to look.
He's not him.
And you notice a key difference. It's almost exactly the same, but there also certainly isn't a scar on his cheek. This one you saw as you approached the table, but it is not there as it comes into vision of your true self.
Wonderful.
I hear you've been asking after me.
Of course, Miss Quartzilla. You didn't expect me back here, did you?
Honestly, I was surprised to get a note from you when I didn't think I had anything to speak to you about.
But there was a lot that we spoke about, wasn't there? About Vidar, about the Order of the Lycan, about your involvement in it.
Honestly, when you approached me with those questions last time, if this is a reattempt to go further down that conversation, on that trail, there's not much I can discuss with you, as it's not really relevant.
I'm watching him for any signs of like. I'm trying to figure out: does he know what he's talking about? Does he know? Does he have memories? Is he going based off what he thinks Late was supposed to talk about?
Our last meeting didn't go so well. Roll me an insight check.
I mean,
I hear since then you've been absent of the city. Anything you wanted to avoid?
No, just been very busy. That's a 14.
There's this sort of tenseness around.
Mhm.
Almost like he's on edge. There's this almost barely noticeable tremble from adrenaline as he speaks.
Mm.
You're not sure if it's nervousness or anger
Mm.
or fear.
Mhm.
So, what I learned, what I experienced when last we met, you don't want to see it everywhere in the papers.
I apologize. I think you need to be a little bit more clear. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about.
Why did you do it?
Again, we're talking in riddles here, and I'd rather try and see exactly what your intentions are. I don't know if this is a game to try and catch me in saying something that you can publish somewhere, but as I spoke to you before about, I don't really have anything to report to the paper.
Then I'll be upfront. You notice his voice almost start to crack a little. Why did you kill me?
I'm sorry?
Can you roll me a deception check?
Did Huxley go with Red and Chalet, or did like?
I mean, you can
I
decide.
don't know. Which did you go with?
That's a 4.
No, good
He's just
deception.
standing there in the background.
This is not her forte. Deception, lying is not her forte. She's better at just telling the truth in roundabout circles.
Oh, rolled a 2.
He's gotta have better than my negative though.
An inside of 0 or something would be
As
fun.
a reporter.
Yeah, maybe this
No,
isn't
no,
a reporter. This is someone else, maybe.
After this sort of outburst, after this accusation, there's this long stare directly into your eyes. When you notice just a sudden sadness pass across, Slade sort of slumps back into his seat. You're not it. You're not it either. You see Slade sort of rubbing his face. And as she does, removing the beard,
It's his wife,
the white streak of hair,
or sister or something.
as someone very different sits in front of her. She looks so similar. In your mind, there is no doubt that they are related. But in front of you does not sit
I'm trying to follow along with what this is, but now I'm a bit more confused than ever.
She slides a notebook on the table. Yours are the last names in there. Yours and Easterville and Vidar. Copy of his journal he always used to keep stashed away. Said he was gonna meet you, and then nothing. For weeks, months, nothing. I know he's dead. He would have said something otherwise. He's just gone, and I don't know why.
I understand loss and the confusion that can come with that. He did approach and asked several questions regarding those things. As to where he is now, I wish I had an answer for you. If I could help you, I would.
You see her reach for a mug and take an almost unhealthily long swig. As she puts it down and sort of wipes the foam off of her mouth, you're not quite sure what of the liquid on her face is ale and what is tears.
Mm-hmm.
But she wipes it off in one motion, and almost immediately, as she was sort of breaking, she seems composed again, though she still seems almost unhealthily gaunt. With a sort of loud the bench slides backwards and she stands up. Well, I hoped it'd be here. But if it isn't, it's elsewhere. I apologize for troubling you. It's
No apologies necessary.
right. If you hear anything,
Your name, so I know where to send it, if I do.
Ithia. He was my brother. And she walks out of the book.
Wow, what was that
Fucking
about?
two on the inside.
We don't even know her name.
Hmm?
We don't even know her name, right?
I just asked it. It's Ithia.
Oh, okay. I was writing stupid things. I probably didn't pay attention. Ithia.
Hmm.
That's not a name we've heard before, right?
No.
No.
So, my lady,
Hmm.
what was this?
Tale of regrets. You know, I could really use a drink. They must have something here other than ale, or just ale. I can't recall.
Several spirits, not made ourselves, but we stock them, of course.
Just something strong. It's been a long few weeks.
Yeah,
Would really appreciate
everything
it.
go? Where'd Late go?
He headed out. I think it's been resolved.
Well then. Oh, well.
Also, have you
I
seen
guess,
Kara, by the way?
Celebrating your return and your profits, we'll get out a bottle on the house, of course, with, you know, everything that's going back and forth. It's nothing anyway. He pulls out a bottle of spirits and he places it on the table.
Have you seen Kara, by the way?
Oh, that's actually, I hope this isn't like gonna cause anything, but she was here a couple of weeks ago, drank a little bit too much. Got pretty angry at a customer. I don't remember what it was. I had to kick them both out. I know she's technically my boss, but it was with everyone that was in the bar. It seemed like the smartest thing. She didn't really. She just kind of left afterwards. Hasn't been back. Think she's going somewhere else now. I didn't. I just. I asked them both to go outside, and they went their separate ways. They were. She didn't seem like she was. Like she meant it. I wouldn't judge if that is the case, but she seemed to realize that she was somewhat in the wrong, I think, because she also just kind of left, and she didn't, because she probably could have, since she's part of you guys, and
I feel like you did the right thing here. We will have a word with her if we find her.
yeah.
We haven't seen her in a while too, so
If you do see her, do extend my apologies. Probably could have also handled it better. It was just situation got out of hand.
yeah, we probably won't send her apologies, and we'll just ask her what the fuck she was thinking doing this. Not from you,
I
of
will
course,
defer
but
that to you. But
yeah.
yes, of course.
We won't mention your name in this case again, but you probably handled it correctly.
Did Ender leave cups on the table, or just
Mhm.
bring the bottle over?
He would have placed several small cups on the table.
Evelyn is just working on pouring herself a drink.
Okay.
She's tuned out of this conversation entirely.
Yeah.
She's
pouring
just so
herself a drink and
relieved
just
right now,
throwing it back.
probably.
Yeah, it's a sharp one. It burns
Yeah.
down your throat. It tastes almost faintly flowery, but you don't even really care.
Yeah. Evelyn is just gonna drink. That's what she's doing.
Okay.
You are right, Evelyn, because usually you are not the shut
Everyone
down
needs to loosen up
person.
every now and then. It's fine.
Okay. You look a little pale, to be honest. Maybe you got sick on the journey, or when we went through the snow. Maybe you got like caught a cold or something.
Maybe.
Yep. She's gonna like make sure to drink fast and drink hard. Something
Yeah.
she has not done for a very long time.
Okay, I guess we'll also pour a glass for Red and me, and
Celebrating your
and for Hugs, of
return
course.
to the city.
Hugs is gonna come over, I guess.
Evening drinking rather heavily.
I mean, I will kinda hold back. I'm not gonna go like full on drunk mode, but like a little bit tipsy is gonna be fine.
Okay. Seems like a good place to wrap up the session and move on to maybe some off time stuff you guys wanted to do.
Yeah. Evelyn would probably order
that,
multiple rounds of like until people who want to be like totally smashed
Let me
are.
just, let
so.
me just put on some happy music. Happy music. Okay. So, as you drink the night away, at least half of you. Did you guys have any questions to off-time stuff?
So many. But Mine are complicated, so I don't care about the one.
Oh, it was a couple of weeks, you said, right?
Yes. So let me quickly break this down in weeks. I totally know by heart how many weeks this is. It's counts on fingers. It would be 8 weeks
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay,
of
okay.
downtime.
I mean, I will definitely train Saxley more.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing.
Make sure you note everything down in a list. Or like a message you can say. You can also post it just in your character specific channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get to them one by one.
I think the main thing I want to do is get spell components. Because druid spells have some really expensive components.
Wait. Wonderful.
Oh, I was just reading up on what would it cost to train in something like in proficiency with a tool or language or whatever. It's 250 days. Holy shit. Guess that's not gonna happen.
Is that for animals or specifically?
No, I just wanted to check if I wanted to like
Hmm.
I don't know, find someone who could teach me like using thieves tools or whatnot.
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
in general,
I
just checking.
would say that you could probably in that time still get proficiency in something like that
Mm-hmm.
at perhaps a higher time investment or a gold investment.
Pay for better teachers.
Yeah, I
is
do
what he
think.
means.
Yeah, I do think it is reasonable that you could learn a skill, a tool skill, or anything in 8 weeks or less
Mm-hmm.
to get proficiency. Maybe not, master it, but to get proficiency.
Nice.
Yeah, anything you don't have a question to now, you can also, of course, always shoot me a message. If
Mm-hmm.
you remember something you wanted to do in downtime later, you can, of course, always send me that as well in a message. But if anyone had any questions as to even something like what they could do, if they could do something, especially in the city, feel free to ask.
I know that easy things I wanted to be able to make alchemist fire, but I don't know how long that takes.
You would
to
definitely
make-
be able to make it, especially with the Medio district sort of having an area for the botanical growth.
Mhm.
Depending on how much you wanted to make, I could give you the time
How
it would
m-
take.
Much did Soleil want?
Oh, I guess one more vial would help. Because you at some point you gave me two. No, one like one full flamethrower and one vial to refill. And I used the flamethrower 2 times, so I had to refill it completely. So now I have no refill vial, basically. And I
Maybe
guess
like
one would be fine. If you can make
theoretically, maybe like 5 potentially. I do have a feature that allows me to make whenever I'm making magic items or whatever. What is it? Only it takes me
Half, I think. Half the time it would normally take.
Yeah,
Oh.
making something as simple as Alchemist's Fire would probably only take you a couple of days.
Yeah,
For
I'll take a
several
couple of
vials.
days then to make.
And are you going to be the one who makes the belt? Because I know that was on your guys' plan.
How long would that take?
The belt would probably at least cost you 2 full weeks. Considering that it's the kind of level of item it is,
Mm-hmm.
I might also require a check from you to determine that length if you are willing to do it.
She would probably go ahead and do it, though probably technically after a couple other things.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give me an Arcana check then, real quick?
Sure. Arcana +9. Oh, 27.
Okay. It would probably take you the 2 weeks only to finish the belt.
And how many? I'm just making sure I'm keeping track of things with time. How long would it take to?
Yes, Red, you could definitely do that. I would say that it probably, unless you wanted Evelyn to be familiar with it, be the faster option to do at the college.
I don't have to learn an instrument.
Given the expertise of, the instrument makers there.
Also, I guess Soleil would ask Evelyn just to find out if she could refill the chronal sphere with the slow spell he used, because it doesn't refill by itself, it's just gone. She probably can't, but that's something he would ask her.
Hold on. Yeah, I know. Do I know spell? Here's a question. I technically put haste and slow into one of my upgrades. I can't actually cast slow though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could. That would probably be a bigger question than if I can or not.
So the chronal sphere works a little bit differently as a magical item.
Mm-hmm.
You could theoretically use the chronal sphere as a gadget you can put your slow that you have on,
Mm-hmm.
but you wouldn't be able to
Have like two
just
instances.
refresh
of it,
this.
Yeah. I would say no. I can't do it. But you could ask Reginald. He might be able to. Is what Evelyn would tell you. You might not get what you want, but you can ask Reginald.
Actually, that will be fun to just do, just to see what happens.
Mhm.
The teeth.
The teeth.
Evelyn would at one point in time. Let's see. I have a question. Luke's resilience sphere.
Yes.
It's the wording of the spell specifically. It states that spells can't, and spells and energy and physical object can't move in or out. But technically, if you cast a spell inside of it, it would stay inside of the sphere, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then, at one point in time, relatively early on, one of the things Evelyn would do, and I don't know if this screws you up entirely,
is take the crate that's been in her room for ages.
Mm-hmm.
Where a little bit of the blight is in, or which one do you mean?
Yeah, the
Okay.
curse blood, the blight curse blood. She'd, if Rhett was around, she'd warn Rhett that she was going to do this beforehand. Well, only if he happened to be around when she went to do it. If she had to go looking for him or wait for him, she absolutely will not. Actually, take it back. She would ask Rhett to make the mansion for her.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Then she would take her crate into the mansion. Her little box that's locked into the mansion. Her intent is to sit down, cast Odaluke's Resilient Sphere, and then very quickly, with her in the circle with the crate, cast Knock on the crate to be able to open it. So she can get her eyes on what's in there.
Quickly double check.
She's just being responsible. She's in a different dimension when she's opening the blight. It just might destroy Rat's mansion, but
Yeah, it doesn't just get put out or thrown out like the necrotech.
she's technically in her sphere, so there's a second layer of protection for about a minute. This is the gift I give you, blight servants.
What was our favorite thing again? This void dragon or whatever it was called? The fucking one that followed us for weeks while we ran through the blighted areas.
Yep.
That was terrifying, that thing.
Yes.
What do you
Like
mean?
the
I
track is
totally
by
don't
magic.
Still have that. Immediately as you cast Knock,
Mm-hmm.
aside from the ear-shattering noise, there's this thin white mist that begins to flow from the crate.
Evelyn's still gonna open it. She's waited too long for this.
You open the crate, and inside you see one of these oily bubbles, this sphere of black material that you had seen moving and wafting about when you had encountered the curse blight in the sluice, when you headed north on the train.
Mm-hmm.
But it's frozen. Inside the box, as you open it, there's this immediate, just freezing cold that wafts out. The inside of this box is covered in ice,
Mm-hmm.
likely to keep the sample frozen. But in the small room you're in, it is quickly starting to accumulate.
Oh, the ice is? Technically, I don't think it can leave. Oh, the cold. I don't think it can leave my bubble that I made.
Yeah,
but
it cannot. It is.
Yeah.
It is freezing you inside this bubble. It is a continuous stream of cold emanating from the inside of this box.
I'll cast Identify, even though I suspect I know already what's going to happen, is because I think I've cast Identify on this before. But I'm curious if it's any different. Right, no, just 1 second. 1 second.
Can you give me a con save as you cast Identify? Can you cast it as a
Spell, using a
or-
spell.
okay.
Well, technically I can cast it at will.
Ah, okay.
So it's
Yeah,
a con save?
yeah.
18.
Yeah, okay. You do feel like you are sort of encased in ice. You identify and almost quickly tick all the boxes that you'd go down the list usually. You sense what you would sense in the past. The sort of mass of curses that seems to be held in the small sphere. And the sort of emptiness. Almost as if ready, like an empty vessel ready to suck up magic. As you reach out, it almost feels like you identify is dispersing into this bubble. And that is what you feel.
Cool. I'll go ahead and close the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it should lock automatically, I think, because I think my knock only suppresses.
Yes.
And I'll go ahead and release the sphere, kind of try and shake some warmth back into my limbs.
That is
Right.
probably this moment when Evelyn vanishes from sight inside the sphere because it's all mist. And then you just see this bubble vanish, and like a wave, this mist just sort of flows to the ground and disperses.
Probably Evelyn would take the time while Rhett still has the mansion set up to reach in his bag, take something he can't see out again, and check on it. See if it's changed, if there's anything different about it, if it's responding the same way. She's trying to get an idea if it's essentially getting closer to hatching, or if it's staying pretty consistent in a stasis while it's in the bag. Right. Oh, sorry. It's a phoenix egg.
Just casually.
As long as Rhett was the only person around, that's what she would have just casually tossed out.
Surprise Pikachu face.
And we got it after we killed the thing. So it's definitely in there. You get a heartbeat. Just trying to see if it's growing or not. I
Would
do my
you-
whole spiel of test of identify and detect magic.
Would you
and
do this over the several weeks?
it would be it probably would be like one of the very first things that she did, and then would continue probably on a weekly basis, double checking to make
that's
sure.
definitely in the realms. Make sure you note that down for your
Yep,
time
yep.
stuff.
Absolutely not, because I need this. I'd rather they don't even know about it, because they'll probably try and hatch it, and I'd rather keep it in this form where I can contain it and make sure if I need it for something, then no, it probably wouldn't. if I have no further use for it, I'll give it to Huxley after I know I don't need it. Fair? I just need to learn what I can from it in its current state without having to constantly argue about wanting to hatch it. If it gets to a point where I'm like, yes, let's absolutely hatch it, I'll get them involved. Right now it's just an egg. Brett doesn't sound convinced. There's a whole list of other things that I might ask about Beggar, but I can send you those in a message.
Is that stuff you wanna do? Like, do you have any questions immediately about whether or not they're
A lot of
possible, or...
researching of things.
Yeah, I mean, research itself, you can put in your downtime stuff too.
A couple of things that she might research might lead into other things. Let me see, we already did that. I guess at some point in time, making sure Kara's still around.
Kara would be there during your downtime, off and on,
Okay.
but she would seem somewhat retreated.
Okay. Mostly because I was trying to see if that related to the comment that I got given my way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, I actually have to step away real fast.
How do you mean a timeline? I mean, I know what a timeline is, but... Oh. For what, her research, you mean?
The phoenix egg.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see where this is going. Then you give it up. Oh, there's a custody battle happening in real time. Oh god. No,
Well,
it's mine.
Huxley would like 2,500 gold for spell components.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, put that in your list. That should not
Yeah.
be a problem.
I have
Unless
like
it's
1,000.
something like outrageous.
It's an agate.
Yeah,
Or
that
at least
would be
1,000?
easy enough to get.
A focus such as a crystal ball, a silver mirror, or a font filled with holy water for at least 1,000 gold, and a object with the image of a dragon engraved on it, worth at least 500 gold.
All of those are easy to get in Polythreme, provided you have the money for it.
I don't know if Rec can cast Greater Restoration, or if it would be worth to get the diamonds for this. Yeah. Then I can
In
also-
terms of if you wanted to do some off-time shopping as well, I will put a list of what would be available in that time in the channel. Probably in, I guess I put it in lore.
I don't know if you want to get spell components for reincarnate, or if you have better options.
Well, it depends on the person you would want to use it on, because as far as I know, nobody likes reincarnate. Everybody
The only
hates
one I
that spell.
have. Do we have Revivify? Or do I cast it? Revivify. Like, can you cast Revivify? Ah.
Ray's dead. Oh no.
It's something.
Yeah, that's better
It's
and
something.
cheaper, so...
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, we
Of
have-
course,
that's all.
you can also freely discuss things in the general chat for your downtime, for anything you would want to do with each other. Communities take. What do you mean, but it might not be a super high level of an item?